Hello, everybody. And hey, Alma, so exciting to have you here again.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, I consider myself super incredibly lucky to be able to have you on twice. Today, we have a super good reason for you to be here today. A deal for you guys watching as well. This is a very limited time, but first, I want you to introduce yourself. But I'm going to say in advance, this is not Alma Katsu, but the Alma Katsu, practically a goddess of thrillers, multi-award winner. Just the Fervor alone, I have to get a list because there's so many things here. The Fervor alone, which is a recent book that everybody knows I've raved about. I absolutely love this book. Locust, Bram Stoker, international thriller, NPR, Goodreads have all heaped praise, accolades, prizes, all the good things. So this is not just Alma Katsu. This is the Alma Katsu. So on that, go ahead and introduce yourself.
It's so kind of you. You know how hard it is to talk about yourself, but I've been writing now, getting published for about 12 years. Hard to believe. 8 books, 9 books. You know how it is because you're always in the middle of a book. So I'm starting to forget how many books I've written. Most of them have had historical aspects to them and something like horror or the supernatural or something like that, except for the 2 spy novels that I did. So yeah, I never thought I'd have a career like this. I'm just so lucky to get to do this, especially since I didn't start until I was 50.
That's a good time to start, though, I think, 'cause you finally figured everything out by then. Like, I don't care what people, no more censoring.
It was something I'd wanted to do my whole life, but I didn't get the chance until my other career, my day job, started to wind down a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say that because it actually got pretty crazy. I worked in intelligence, and then the last third of my career, I worked in emerging technologies for intelligence. So it was pretty wacky. What am I saying? I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, like, because you write thrillers, I feel like your day job has kind of gone into this job as well.
I never thought I'd write a spy novel, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The horror and the supernatural is more what I would prefer to write.
Yeah. Well, all your books, I've started with The Fervor. That's actually the first book that I read by you. And wow, I think that book meant so much to me because it was just really well written, really good story. But I felt seen. These are the stories that my grandmother had told me about internment camps, which growing up in America is so outside of my scope, that it was like, oh, this is not that I disbelieved her, but now suddenly, because of your book, it was real. I could see her stories.
Yeah, it's really strange. When I was a kid growing up, and like I said, I'm sure people can do the math. Got my first book published when I was 50, and it's been 12 years. So, you know, but when I was young, people knew about the internment. They taught it in
Mhm.
school. They didn't teach it a lot. They didn't say a lot, but of course, they didn't say a lot about most things. This is whirlwind going through American history. But people knew about it. And what was
Yeah.
really shocking when I was on tour for this is how many people told me that their schools were not teaching it any longer.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of the whole thing of like when history disappears, we wind up repeating it.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when I was writing this, that's what really struck me and why I thought it was an important story to write, because we were kind of going through the same thing again. With a certain former president, once he said, that he blamed the Chinese for purposely, generating and releasing COVID. It just started this huge wave of violence against Asians in this country. And, a couple other things
Yeah.
going on. And I just really felt like this was a story that had to be written for exactly that reason, because we're going down the same path again.
Yeah, I think that was the other reason, because there was so many upsetting things. Watching a grandmother get beat up for the fact that she was Asian, for her race. I'm not gonna go into it too far because I will start breaking up. And this is supposed to be lighthearted because this is a celebration. Everybody can get The Fervor for $1.99 right now on ebook. From what dates? Like vary. It's only a limited time, right?
Started today, the 12th, and it's only 1 week, so it'll end on the 19th.
Okay, so you're watching this right now on Saturday. You better go now. Link in the description for you to get this. But we're going to do a short as well so that we can get this information out really fast.
Thank you.
Going back, because I think that is why this is not just a book. This is not just entertainment, but it really meant a lot because of that highlighting this very real and very dangerous problem, because it's not just the Asians, it's who's next. And that's the way it always winds up in a situation like this. It seems like, you start
Right.
picking off one group and now we're divided and now it's easy to get the other group. So, now is a good time to buy this book and support this message.
Buy the book if you find this interesting. So I was basically a political analyst for a long time in the intelligence business. And when I went back and looked at the internment in the United States and looked at what were the factors that drove the internment and made it even possible, since it's illegal to lock up American citizens without reason, it really opened my eyes at how much it reminded me of other political, civil wars and that sort of thing that I've seen in other countries. And it's just shocking to think how close it is in the United States, right? That people are convinced that they need to imprison people who are American citizens on nothing more than a suspicion.
Yeah. And also just the thing that I really got was the lumping everybody into one. Asian, not Japanese, Chinese. I mean, there's so many Asians, there's so many different types, but that's like saying American, and it's just this broad sweeping, there's not one kind of American. So
No,
that
there
was the
isn't.
other thing that I thought was really good about this, because all your characters are so individual. They're people.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because, of course, you too were surrounded by Asians growing up. And what made the internment so important to us is that my husband's family were interned. And so not only did we hear stories from them, but we really studied, the whole period, right? So watched a lot of documentaries, read a lot of books. And it's so real to me because we were immersed in it. And the things that they went through in the camps and the pressures they were under, they were under a lot of pressure by the leaders of the Japanese American community to just go along, to not fight it, that this will show the rest of America what good Americans they are. And it just breaks my heart because honestly, they missed the point.
Yeah.
Right? They don't care. They don't care that you're a good American, that you are an American citizen. That's not why they put you in you know what I mean? It's like, you just keep
and why is it the burden on the victims to prove their worth?
Right.
They'd already done that by going through, doing all the things. They'd already done all the things and then when my grandmother told me about it, she said, like their property was taken and stuff. And I remember even as a kid, just kind of being like, Grandma, this is America. You don't do that. Like, it doesn't happen here. You just don't speak the language very well, Grandma. You just don't understand what really happened, but then in reality, that is exactly what happened. Possessions were taken. They were confiscated and everything.
Yes, it's unbelievable. It's funny. It was somehow a little bit more believable when I was young, but now maybe because I understand the law and the Constitution a little bit more, I realize how just completely unjust it was.
Yeah. So that's The Fervor is a super important book for me for these reasons. It's a super important book for you as well, isn't it?
Right. I mean, yeah, part of it is when I was trying to figure out who's the bad guy in the story, right? We have this mysterious disease that's running through the internment camps, and it's not natural. And so we're trying to figure out where it came from. And this is a tiny spoiler. So the government plays a role in here. And I am not one for government conspiracy theories. I worked in intelligence for 35 years, and I know most of them are, bull hockey. But then as I was finishing up the book, January 6th happened, and I watched the coverage all day. It was impossible for me to look away. And it just, as an American, it just broke my heart. But as an analyst of all of these, civil wars and that sort of thing, I just saw something again happening in America that I never thought would happen here. And that's militias, because every time an autocrat rises to power, there's a militia that enables them. And it just, and we saw that there was police and military and a lot of folks who, God damn it, should know better, who were part of that. And so I thought, this it proves the case. I don't want to believe that there are people in our government and our military who would do this sort of thing, but it happens. And so I felt it was okay to introduce that sort of conspiracy theory into the book.
And do you think we're out of the hot water with that? Do you think we're on the other side of that and maybe things will get better now? Or do you think there's still or is that even a question we should ask here?
I don't know, because it's certainly the media coverage of what's going on with the groups in this country has died down. But, that's a good question. I have a friend who's actually a professor, and we worked together at RAND for a while. And this is his area of expertise, insurgencies. And so I really need to ask him what he thinks is going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Right now there is which honestly is the feeling in the Fervor. I think that's what made it so real, is because as I was reading it, I had a very real feeling of like that distrust and what's going on and confusion and fear, but on a scale of like, it's not a monster. There's something else going on.
Right. Yeah. Because to me, it's extremely frightening for this country to take that turn. When I started my career, we had the Oklahoma City bombing, and that really, drove the point home that there was a group of Americans who had really sort of twisted their patriotism. So I've always known throughout my career that this was a danger. But to see, the level that we're at now is so much higher than then. It's hard to imagine what it's going to be like. How are we going to come back from this?
Yeah. Well, what were some of the hardest parts of writing the Fervor? Because there was the personal aspects, and there was so many external, I don't want to say dramas, because that makes it feel not important, but there was so much pressure and anxiety outwardly at that time while you were writing this.
Well, it was sort of managing the terror part, right? Because part of the issue with these types of events are that you get a lot of generally nice people caught up in it, right? For whatever reason, people who aren't necessarily evil, right? The narrative fits what they need at the time or whatever. And so it was writing people like one of the main characters, Archie Mitchell, who is a real person, and he lost his wife, and he was in the incident that is in the first chapter of the book. And from all accounts, he seemed like a nice guy. And I used him to represent the religious aspect that there was a lot of religious figures who were speaking out against the Japanese and were in favor of the internment, and we're seeing the same thing now. And so I wanted to show it wasn't that he was this evil, hand-wringing villain, but he was a guy who got confused, and it does happen.
Yeah, he had a horrific loss. One that we hopefully can never imagine.
Right.
That's one of the things that I thought was so amazing. And I can't remember how I stumbled across this. I think I was doing a review or something, and I did a little searching, and I think I was trying to find out, is it Bly Canyon?
Just Bly in Oregon.
Yeah, Bly, Oregon.
Deer Heart Mountain.
Yeah, Deer Heart Mountain. So I was like, I wonder if there's a place called that. And then I stumbled across, yes, there is. And then I stumbled across Archie, or, it was just like this, this is real.
Yeah. So it was real, and it was so easy to envision too, which is the sad thing. But
and like you said, it really puts him in a position where when you see this happen, and I'm not going to get too far into spoilers, because everybody watching this is going to go get that ebook right now and read this for themselves. But it's horrific what he winds up doing later. But when you see what triggered it, it really puts it all into perspective. And I think in villains in general, Like nobody sees themselves as a villain when they're starting out or in their actions. It's justified. And I could see if I was in his place, I would justify the same behavior. I hope I wouldn't, I hope I would be a more discerning person, but I can't guarantee that. I don't think any of us can.
It's tough. I mean, I used to work genocides and mass atrocities. So I get that question occasionally, does evil exist? And it's true. Geez, most people, I'm doing it the wrong way. There it goes. Most people, we say all the time that villains don't think they're villains. They think they're doing the right thing. I guarantee you, I have followed a couple leaders who knew they were doing the wrong thing. I mean, they knew they were doing a power grab no matter what they said. So it does happen sometimes, but
so the Fervor's gotten a ton of recognition. I'm super sad that I missed StokerCon this year because I really, really wanted to go and do. I mean, you did get a Stoker. You got it for the werewolf, which is amazing.
The werewolf, yeah.
So congratulations, which is also a Shirley Jackson. So, and just for the viewers right now, I am sitting in the studio virtually with Alma Katsu, which we've gone over that. The Alma Katsu. So just so you all know, it's me and Alma right here. Screenshot this. But, so has that changed anything? Because you've just gotten award after award after award heaped on you for this book. Has it changed your perception, or does it make you feel like this was definitely worth it? Or how is it being received on your end? Like, how are you taking this?
Well, I'm just so lucky. The book, I'll just be honest, it hasn't had the sales that I'd really hoped for. But I guess in a way, it's almost understandable, right? Because it's, minority point of view and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a hard sell in America. But having all of the critical acclaim has really helped. I mean, the New York Times, just completely raved about it. They actually ran something about it twice in 1 week, which was never happens for genre. So, so all that has really, really helped. And it helped the publisher really get behind the book. So yes, I mean, I honestly, all three of the historical horrors have done so well. I don't think I could ask for anything more. And yet my next book is going to be a contemporary horror. So I don't know. I thought it'd be interesting to try.
Tell us about the next book. Is that, oh, I've lost my page. I'll just say, tell us about your next book because I've lost my page.
Okay. Well, the next novel won't be coming out until 2024. And the title of it is definitely going to change. So I can't tell you what it's going to be, but it is a contemporary and it's set in a small town in New England, I grew up in a small town in New England, the spookiest town in New England. And so I get to bring some of that into the story. And it's about a young woman who ends up having to return to her hometown to take care of her mom, who has Alzheimer's and she's declining fairly fast. But she swore she'd never come back to this town because it's really has something wrong with it. You just know it when you live there. And we get to explore what that is.
Okay. All right. I don't even know what the name is yet. It's on my wish list.
Oh, thank you.
When can we expect that about?
It's going to be in the fall. Normally my books were being published in the spring, usually in March, April-ish. But the publishers decided to move me to the fall because it's more spooky season. Yay! So, yep, that one won't be coming out for a little over a year now. Okay.
Well, I'm super excited. And you have a pre-order going on right now as well, don't you? So you can get the Fervor, and while you're at it, you can go get this pre-order, which is the Black Vault.
Right, Black Vault. It's an Amazon original story, so it's only on Kindle. I think there's going to be an audiobook version. They've been doing that. But it's really, I don't know if you would consider it horror. Did you consider X-Files horror?
Yeah, I think you could.
Because it's very X-Files flavored. It's about a CIA officer who's towards the end of his career. He's going to retire in a couple months. But his career was sort of derailed early on when he actually filed a report on what looked like a UFO sighting. And I'm here to tell you, in this line of work, that is instant ridicule. You might as well, you just hang it up, right? So
Yeah.
he was not taken seriously for the rest of his career, and he gets very bitter. But just as he's about to retire, he gets put on a task force. You may remember the 60 Minutes segment on the Navy coming out and admitting that there were unexplained aerial phenomena, and that triggered congressional directive that all the agencies had to write a report, go through their files and all that. So he gets sent on the task force to do that. And he thinks they're just trying to drive him out to make him quit finally. You know, the ridicule will be too much to bear. But it actually triggers a big investigation. And, you know, I don't want to give away the ending, but he's vindicated. So
That is very cool, especially that is kind of a thing that's happening right now. We're seeing all the reports of, unexplained phenomena under the water, in the ocean, in the skies, and people that don't wear foil hats normally talking about it. I think it's
yeah.
kind of a
And it was interesting to write because I put myself in the position I wanted to write exactly how, as an analyst, I would try to go through and verify the information that I'm seeing in these reports. So one person read it and they said it's almost like a police procedural because you just see how it's done. So yeah, hopefully that comes out August 8th, I think.
Okay. So that's soon. So viewers, you have just enough time to get the Fervor. Read it twice because you'll want to read it once really fast, and then you want to read it again because you know all the stuff really happened and absorb it, and then you can go get Black Vault.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Well, and so it's an Amazon original. So is that going to be a Bram Stoker next year, do you think? I think it might.
Gosh. I could not ask for that. That would be asking too much.
Okay, I'll ask for you. Okay, everybody, you know which books to nominate. You know which books to read.
You're too kind. Too kind. As
So,
long as people enjoy it, that's all I hope for.
That's why I get really picky with books. Maybe the whole editing thing, it's really hard for me to enjoy a book. And I think that's why I got so excited when I read The Fervor the first time, because it was a really good book just on its own. And then B, it was such an important topic at such an important time. And the fact that you dared to write it in a way, because I remember at the time we came out with the Black Cranes around that time. Like, I think it was before, I don't remember, but at that time, in that environment, that emotional, we were actually a little bit of afraid to talk about Asian things, and so the fact that you just boldly did it, and I just huge respect for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all your support. I really appreciate it. It's, all the Cranes have to stick together.
Yeah. The unquiet Black sister Cranes. I can't remember how long it tortured Willow Crane. Oh, which reminds me, I do have a very exciting, completely selfish announcement to make. But I'm so excited because I've mentioned it a few times that I did finish my first novel last year, but I haven't really had the time to dip into it because of life. So I'm wrapping it up right now, getting ready to publish it, I think, this year. And the Alma Katsu, not just any Alma, but the Alma Katsu, agreed to write the forward introduction for it. So I'm still like, oh my gosh, thank you. You're incredible. You're amazing.
I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the Black Vault. I'm looking forward to more of the Fervor. Link is in the description, everybody. I'm going to put that banner up again to remind you all. And is there anything else that you have coming up? Like anything else that we should know?
I'm trying to think. Well, we optioned the film rights for one of my spy books, and just waiting for the Hollywood writers' strike to end for everybody's sake.
Yes.
So we can get started on that. And actually, I'm going to be in talks with some producers for a short story that came out in an anthology last year, I think, the Other Terrors anthology.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, if I'm lucky, we'll have a couple projects going.
That is fabulous. Well, congratulations on that. And anytime you want to be over here, let me know. I will move waves. Everybody else, you're canceled. Alma said she'll be on. Sorry.
You're too kind. You're too kind. You're a great pillar of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You too. It's been a pleasure having you here. From here, Everybody go to the link in the description. You can buy the Fervor right now for $1.99 on ebook. Send a message to the publisher that these are important stories, that we need these stories. If nothing else, send this message, I think. But yeah, and then I guess that's it for us. Go get the Fervor right now. What are you waiting for? It's a click.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I will see everybody next week on Exercise Your Rights.
Hi there, I'm Colleen Anderson. I was one of the judges for this year's HWA Poetry Showcase, and it's been a great privilege and honor to actually be on the other side from having my poems in the collections to actually being one of the people who chooses. And there were many, many poems, very fantastic long poems, short poems, not longer than 35 because that's the limit. But there was such a range, and I admire everyone who submitted and put their heart and souls into their pieces. Some of the things that stand out for me probably will be much like the other judges, is that poem or fiction these days, there's a lot of good work, so it has to sing. And when I say it has to sing, it means that you need to use unique imagery that hasn't been used before. You have to watch your cliches. And if you're using tried and true tropes, not that there is not always room to explore more with tropes, but you do have to know your genre and know what's already out there. Poems that actually try to present something new, like a new horror that I haven't seen before. Haunted houses, we've all seen, creepy dolls. But if you actually create your own monster or atmosphere, that also helps because it makes it more unique. And again, like you could tell a haunted house story in a poem, and if it's really unique in the language or the perspective, that also just makes it stand out above the others. Also, form poetry is actually harder to do than free verse or blank verse, and to do it well also takes studying the form and trying it, but it also helps it stand out. And of course, if you're doing a form poem with rhymes, and not that rhymes can't be used, but you have to pretty much throw out the first rhyme that comes into your head and go for another. Noisy vehicles on my road here. You have to go for the next one. You have to actually stretch to see if you can use something that hasn't been used before. Other than that, the imagery, the stories that were told, they were great. And I think everyone who submitted should be congratulated for doing that. It's not an easy thing to always submit and also get a rejection. And to all those who were successful, your poems were amazing, and I'm very happy to have been part of this endeavor. Thank you.